I feel like it should be Todd Bowley behind one of those Nike ads, those Just Do It ads. Like, pay the money, just do it. Remember how they made like all those spoofs of like those Nike things? I feel like that would be perfect for a Bowley one.
Do you guys remember the Kobe Bryant Nike, the Kobe system commercials where he was basically giving TED Talks? How many records can my records break, Kobe Bryant?
How much more do you want from me?
More.
How much more successful do you want me to be?
More successful.
How many records can my records break?
More records.
But I'm the best.
But are you a different animal and the same beast?
What the does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
You're welcome.
What the is he talking about?
What the fuck does that mean, Kobe Bryant? Exactly.
Yeah, no, he doesn't say exactly. He says, "You're welcome."
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing this by memory. I've been seeing this in 12 years, dude.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's on the same level as when they did the LeBron and Kobe puppets living in the same house. Oh my god, great. Those were so good.
Edward Mende, Samina Mina Sam Sadate. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving. Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. On tonight's pod, we've got a full house once again. This time it's our normal full deck. Got myself, Andy. You can find me at Comiskey North. You've got the Tinkerman himself, Matt, at Matus Lee. And then we've also got the special one, Parker, at DJ Parkour. Parker, how you doing?
Good to be back. Man, it's good to be back. Appreciate you guys holding down the fort last week without me. You guys know this, but I don't know if podcast land knows that my work is quite busy end of the year, and it's about a 2-week sprint to the end where you're working pretty much all day, every day. And you have work dreams, it really starts to suck, is you don't know if you had those conversations in real life or if you fucking dreamt them. So that's really, really great. But I finished everything up and was able to pour myself a drink and just kind of cheers myself into the new year. So spent New Year's with my in-laws because we had to cancel Christmas due to weather. So it was in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which was great. I got to relax, be in sweats the entire time. And they just picked me up a bunch of beer and they're like, yeah, if you don't drink it, you're taking it with you, but we expect you to drink it all. So I'm like, all right, I'll start drinking. That's fine. So all that said, boys, it's a good way to bring in the new year. Tough result. But you know what? What's new? It's been this season for us, and you just kind of soldier on. That's been my motto for work, is you just kind of soldier on. And I was excited to get back into Premier League watching, and was reminded how much I care about this and how much it bothers me when we lose or draw. It felt like a loss. So I am good, very, very good, and happy to be back. Matthew?
Yeah, we're obviously happy to have you back. It was a good weekend. I actually celebrated my wife's family for Christmas, so we were up in Parker's old stomping grounds of Appleton, Wisconsin. Just hanging out there for the weekend. Just eating a bunch of food, playing just some board games and card games, and watching Christmas movies, drinking beer. Good time all around. continual work on the basement, which is progressing quite quick actually. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, it was a good weekend. Unfortunately, I had the pleasure, so to speak, of watching the game right before the pod, so everything is pretty fresh in my mind. So I don't know, different year, same Chelsea. It's kind of the way that I look at it after this first match of 2023. But Parker, I like the phrase, you soldier on, and that's kind of what we have to do as loyal fans. So we keep hanging in there. Collins, how are you?
Oh man, today's been highs and lows. Like you guys have said, it's been a Chelsea day. Got a soldier on. All of that 100%. I started my New Year's resolution a day early. Went to the gym and had leg day, and I'm already the old guy on this pod, but I was struggling to stand up and sit down today. So it's been a heavy drink day on top of that. So cheers to 2023, right?
Amen.
All right. Well, before we get into ranting about this about this week's result, we're on episode number 21. So let's pick a player who wore the number 21 and cheers to them. Here, boys, here are your options. And this is courtesy of transfermarket.us. Nemanja Matic, Davide Zappacosta, Benny Chills, Solomon Kalou, and Hernan Crespo.
Nemanja Matic. For me, it has to be, strictly because of the goal that he scored in the semifinal against Tottenham.
Eden Hazard finds Cesc Fabregas. Back to Hazard. Took it away from Costa. It's Matic with the ball driver. Matic takes the net off.
I believe we won that game 4-1. Parks, I think it was you and me that were at Britt's Pub. Collins, I don't remember if you were there or not. But Parker, you and I were at Britt's Pub when he hit that strike so purely, top bins, off the crossbar, and just absolutely sniped that ball. The fact that it was against Tottenham, just so good. But that strike, and he was an absolute unit in that midfield. I was a little bit sad when we sold him to United, and he's still there and not playing as much, which is upsetting to see because he was such a force and such a good player. So for me, it's got to be Matic.
Boy, I thought you were picking Kalou just based on the hairstyle in the Champions League final match, Matt. You threw me for a loop there. But yeah, for me, it's Matic as well. An enforcer, defender, midfielder, defender. And, he just, he brought a ton of physicality. When I watch Zakaria, it reminds me a little bit about him, where he has that more physical presence in the midfield, gets to boss people around a little bit. I think we missed him a lot when he left, and I thought he was just a really solid, consistent member of those teams. So Matic for me too.
We'll sweep it. Matic for me as well. And you look at our midfield now, and outside of Zakaria starting the last couple matches, we don't really have that enforcer in the middle like we did with Matic there. But I do want to give just a shout out to Solomon Kalou, not necessarily for the hairstyle, but 60 goals and 250 appearances for Chelsea, usually playing second fiddle to whoever we had on the wings out there, is quite the achievement. Easily the second best Ivorian player to ever play for Chelsea. So, but boys, we are out of Mobcraft for the moment. So what are we cheersing with this week?
Parker, I'm drinking Lafroig 10-year cast strength, which was my gift to myself after I finished my renewals at 1-1. So thanks, Total Wine.
Yeah. Collins, what about you?
I'm drinking Angel's Envy with chaser of some good old Jolly Good cream soda. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I've got some Woodford Reserve double oaked, and chasing that down with a Cinnamon Prost White Stout that I just randomly picked up at Total Wine in their special release section. I like going there, just seeing what they have and find something that sounds interesting. But yeah, cinnamon, vanilla, good, very good white stout. So highly recommend.
Well, cheers to Nemanja Matic, and cheers to Total Wine.
Cheers, boys.
All right. Well, on tonight's pod, we're gonna rant a little bit. We're gonna be covering not Tottenham's. Sorry.
Although that was good to see.
Yeah. we'll not be talking about Tottenham losing to Aston Villa, but we will be talking about Chelsea dropping points on the road at Nottingham Forest to start 2023. We've also got a whole mess of transfers to discuss. So we'll get into that a little bit later on the pod. But first, again, 1-1 draw at Forest. Relegation battling Nottingham Forest.
Havertz near post. Oh, it's off the woodwork and then lashed in by Raheem Sterling. Chelsea hit the front. Their first goal of a new year, scored by Raheem Sterling. His first league goal since all the way back in August. It's in by Gibbs-White. It's come off Havertz. Up goes Bobby. Where's that going to fall? In it goes! And there's the equalising goal for Nottingham Forest.
Came out early with the lead with Raheem Sterling scoring. Concede late off of a very sloppy set piece. Boys, what are we making of the new year, same Chelsea?
I didn't have the pleasure of watching the midweek match, so I didn't see exactly how we played there, but you know, it feels like that we were just playing off of a script. And what's really telling to me is just like the effort level. And when we want to turn it on, we can, but we don't want to play like that for 90 minutes. As a fan, it's really disappointing to see, just because, you know, they score and then instantly we look better, and instantly we can attack again, and instantly it just kind of all starts to go again. And I just hate that. It just sucks. And, you know, we played timid for a while. We came out the second half. Collins, how many times have we freaking said we come out the second half slow? It starts to really get annoying. And as someone who likes to talk about Chelsea on a podcast, I feel like I'm just repeating myself over the same like 4 common ways of things kind of happening. But you know, one thing I wanted to comment on was Graham Potter, and not necessarily for tactics or whatever, but post-match comments. His post-match comments really bothered me, and I think he's going to take some time, and he needs some time to figure some stuff out. But man, his mentality and the way he kind of like looks at stuff and talks about stuff just bothers me. I pulled up one quote. I'll read it for you. It's really quick. Hard-earned point against a team that are set up well. They put us under pressure the second half. Our performance level wasn't good enough to take 3 points. Now, if we were playing up against PSG or Real Madrid or someone, like, sure, but we're playing against relegation zone Nottingham Forest. It just, like, he likes to give all the credit to the other team for how they bossed us around. And I just think that a lot of our guys deserve a lot of like flack for how they played and how they handled certain situations, and their lack of physicality and lack of decision making and not creating enough chances. Like, I can go on and on and on and on about the things that were wrong about that match. Not once did I thought Nottingham bossed us around. I thought it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds. So it was just a very frustrating, especially second half. And then again, we didn't create enough and do enough in the first half to sort of bridge that out. You know, we didn't take a 2-goal, 3-goal lead to then coast off into the sunset. Nope. We're up 1-0 and then concede, and then not enough time, not enough effort to throw at it to secure a win. Same story.
Collins, what says you?
I don't want to get into the whole manager discussion. It's too early in the pod to talk about that. We all
fair. I didn't want to talk about Potter out at all. I just wanted to talk about the comment post match about how he's handling it.
Yeah, and yeah, I think a lot of it does come back to Potter, to the coaching staff, and all. And again, we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But it was just, we had two shots the whole game against relegation battle, a team battling relegation in 19th, who signed 25 new players this past summer. And we talk about Potter needs a chance to implement his system and all that. Steve Cooper had he had a brand new team. Everybody on that team is new. So I mean, props to Nottingham. I mean, they knew exactly how to pick Chelsea apart. But Parker, you and I were going back and forth on our group chat earlier during the game that it was just a very fluid, open game, and I'm not sure that plays to Chelsea's strengths, because when we're passing and things are going side to side and then front and back and all, and it looks good. But how often did we see Forest nick the ball off a player? In this example, Matt throwing you a bone here to Jorginho, nick a ball off Jorginho, and boom, they're off on the break. And we have Cucurella, Koulibaly, Silva, Dave at the back, the slowest back four you could possibly put together back there. And yes, there are injuries and all of that, but it just seemed like Forest knew exactly what to do, whereas we went in with almost a Greg Berhalter like plan of, this is our system, this is the way we're going to play, and this is how it's going to be done. Forest definitely out tacticked us, I would say.
I'm trying to debate how far I want to go with my next comment. I'll save it for later. We have a team that seems very entitled based on contributions that they've done in the past. What I mean by that is Nottingham Forest is a team that is fighting for the livelihood of their club, right? They're fighting to stay up. They're going to go full bore against anybody and everybody. Chelsea, as a team, we're content with, oh yeah, we know that we're going to finish top, whatever. Like we're content with that. There's a big difference, and we've talked about this, playing to win versus playing not to lose. Right now, it seems like we are playing not to lose, and we are getting burned on it constantly. It seems like we are being outworked, at some points outmanaged. But it seems like every team that we play wants it more than us. We're resting on the laurels of our Champions League victory still 2-3 years after the fact that it happened. And we have a new crop of players that have come in, and it's like, okay, I'm going to play for Chelsea. They recently won the Champions League. That was a completely different team than what we have now. Like, you have to start doing your part. Obviously, a lot of exterior things have happened, new ownership, new manager, blah, blah, blah. I get that. But to me, it comes down to the players, and they are not performing. They seem very lackadaisical in a lot of the stuff that they do. They're constantly looking for calls that half the time aren't calls at all. They're just hitting the deck and expecting something because they play for Chelsea. And other teams are just imposing their will on us, more so physically than anything. And our team is just expecting these calls to happen like it's, like it was back in the day. It's not that. A clear and evident picture of that would be the World Cup. how many times did we look at calls when we were watching just random games, not even US games or anything like that, random games going, how was that not called? But it was consistent that it was not called throughout the World Cup. It was a much more physical World Cup, telling people to get on with it. And if you think that they're going to go back to their old ways after seeing everything, what I thought was a very positive World Cup as far as some officiating went, with letting a lot of stuff go and letting people play. If you thought they were going to revert back to that, where it was very ticky-tack shit, they were in for a very rude wake-up call. And I still don't think that they've gotten over that, which is surprising considering half of our team played in the World Cup. So I find that very, very shocking. But I don't know. We've always talked about under Tuchel, it's a team of two halves. It's still the same way. Again, Potter is trying to get some of his guys in there. Collins will touch on all the what seems like million new signings that we have, basically creating a new team from scratch at this point with everything that we've been hearing and seeing. But it seems like we're at a point right now where, it's either shape up or ship out. And I think we are very close to that edge right now. And January, I expect Chelsea to be very active, not only in purchasing players, but also in selling of players.
And I think one of the big issues that really killed us in that second half was the play of the midfield. You look at Zakaria, he was bossing people, but he's not a playmaker. He's not a guy who you're going to run the offense through, right? He's the Nemanja Matic. He's the enforcer back there. And we saw him get up in people's faces, which was nice to see for once out of a Chelsea team. But next to him was Jorginho, who we've talked about at length. We're not going to break down Jorginho's game in this pod, Matt. But everybody knows how to attack Jorginho at this point. I understand Kovacic wasn't ready to go. He had a long World Cup. I don't see why Connor couldn't have been starting in this one. I don't see, necessarily why some of the youth guys who trained in Abu Dhabi with the first team couldn't have played. Omari Hutchinson, from what it sounds like, has been tearing it up. We've talked about before on this pod that Cesare Cassette has been tearing it up with the U23s. You look at what we spent in summer on U21s not named Wesley Fofana, and it's upwards of $70 million. Where are these guys? Because our first team isn't playing well at the moment. So why not? There's no way the results can be worse featuring some of these guys here and there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I would say I would rather see a draw against hungry youth players than I would a draw against experienced veterans. I would much rather see that. I would be able to live with that. And Parker, to your point, I would have treated this draw as a win versus seeing it as a loss if that would have been the case.
Yeah, because our veterans aren't going to stick around for very much longer. Most of them do have one foot out the door, have been linked away, or we kind of want gone. We've got so many of these like fringe players. And ironically and funnily enough, like two of our better performers were Pulisic and Ziyech, people who have been heavily rumored to leave the club. Guys who I think like we could kind of build around these guys still. Pulisic more than Ziyech just due to age. But, it's just there's a lot of folks out there that, are just kind of phoning it in. They're just giving like ho-hum, half-assed. They're not terrible. They're not making a ton of mistakes, but they're also not really contributing players. And it's bugging me. And I think that we have to, revert to some of those guys and give people chances to fight. And I know that that's earned on the trading grounds. And I know that, the manager oversees that and whatnot, but I will definitely have a harder stance on it if, we don't start to see some of those guys get featured more often.
So one thing I will say about this match, the definition of talk shit, get hit, seems to have come to fruition. We had Hector on last week from Milwaukee Blues on the pod, and he was talking shit about Christian Pulisic, who was one of our better performers in this whole game. I would say the goal was set up by his play. And then I was talking shit about Raheem Sterling in our group chat early in the match. And then I'd say no more than about 10 seconds later, he's putting the ball in the back of the net. So hopefully with all this ranting today, boys, we talk a little shit and this team sparks up a little bit. Clearly they all listen to this podcast.
Big fans of the pod.
All right. So any closing thoughts on the match, boys?
Nothing that hasn't been said, man. It was frustrating, and we just need to see something change. I don't know exactly what that is, but we're just kind of carbon copying ourselves, and it's leading to the same thing. It feels like everyone else is taking steps forward, and January is going to be super interesting to see how it all pans out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of January. Obviously, we've heard, we've been linked with so many people. It seems like if you even have played football in your life, you're probably linked to Chelsea at this point. But again, we've got so many people that almost seem to have kind of one foot out the door with all the talks and everything. And it's like, I expect Chelsea to be very active in this transfer period, whether it is buying or selling. We've already seen all the purchases that have already taken place and all the agreements that have been met. But I'm curious to know the full shakeup that's going to happen within January.
So Matt, I know you and I had a little war in the build up to the pod here tonight. Let's just get this out of the way right now. It's not necessarily a war because I agree with you, but
it's I would say it's two different perspectives coming to an agreement.
You know what? I guess that is how most wars come to be. So
yes,
we'll call it a war. So just to frame this a little bit, Matt had a hot take, and Matt, do you want to introduce your hot take?
Yeah. So in our group chat, and I know both of you are a lot more active on Twitter than I am. But from our group chat, it seemed that somebody who shall remain nameless, Collins, was teasing or almost inferring Potter out. And from my standpoint, I don't put the blame on Potter as much as I do the players. I would almost throw it more of like a 65-35 player to Potter ratio. That's kind of how I've looked at it, and I've touched on it a little bit. My biggest thing is like, these are very entitled players. They play for a huge club. What's to say that, okay, they don't work out well at Chelsea, right? They're going to go to another big name club for probably a little bit lesser of a transfer fee than what we paid for them, but they're still going to be big names going to big clubs. So even if they don't perform well for Chelsea, they're still going to get paid. At the end of the day, they're still going to get paid. Ziyech, he's going to get paid. I would love to see Ziyech stay. I thought he had a fantastic World Cup. I thought he had very good moments in this Nottingham Forest match. Pulisic already has 1 foot out the door, so it seems, depending on if you talk to the media or his dad. It's
Mark.
Yeah, I feel like he wants to succeed at Chelsea. I don't see him succeeding at all at Manchester United. I don't even see him cracking the starting 11, to be completely honest. But again, somebody who has been heavily linked with rumors away, but he's still going to get paid. Somebody like Kai Havertz. Again, he's young. We paid a good fee for him. we need to get off his high horse. Oh, we scored the Champions League goal. Good. That was 3 years ago. Fine. Like, what else have you done? He often seems, I would say, uninterested or not up to par with where we want to be. So I think that's a big telling sign. Mount, I think he's going to stay with Chelsea just because he was a youth academy player. That's about it. And I use the analogy of, like, some people seem checked out. Koulibaly, don't know if he's checked in yet. Cucurella, I don't think has a reservation in the same city that we're playing in most matches. Like, everybody's just so all over the place. Jorginho is, at this point, almost seems like begging to leave and go back to Serie A. We just have so many unknowns, and you start to see it game in and game out, where it's like, oh, well, I'm just gonna, and this is just from a visual standpoint. I'm not saying I know what they're thinking or anything like that, but from a visual standpoint and knowing all these outside influences and all the stuff that we read, which obviously could be taken with a grain of salt, but we still have to at least look into it. The way that I look at it is, these are players that are trying to hold a little bit more value for their own paydays. It's a very self-interest club. Like, they are looking out for themselves. Yes, they got paid when they came to Chelsea, but they also know that even if they don't live up to the hype of what we want them at Chelsea, they're still going to get paid no matter where else they go. And it's probably going to be to a big name team, like a lot of these people have been linked to. You compare that against Nottingham Forest, they brought in 25 different people, 25 new signings. How many of them are looking at trying to either get out or have been linked with moves away from the club? Hardly any. Obviously, because they're all brand new players, but still, you don't hear about a lot of those links and things like that. I throw this more on the players than I do Potter. Does Potter have mistakes that we've seen tactically and from a managerial standpoint? Absolutely. Without question. But if you set the game plan and the players don't execute, what else can you do? Especially if the players are, quote unquote, playing for themselves. And I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying that's how it looks from a fan perspective.
See, and I agree with you. I agree that this is a player. Part of it is a player issue. And it started back in 2007 when the players mutinied and Mourinho was sent packing the first time. Every manager we've now had, it's been players have the power. They decide when the manager's done. Could it, and I've used this, I use this analogy, not this analogy, I've used this when Tuchel was, nearing the exit door. And it was, there's no way all the players on this squad and the level that they are at are a 9th place team in the Premier League or an 8th place team in the Premier League. There's no way. Are some of them a little outmatched? Yeah, I think Koulibaly, either, I don't know if he has time to adjust at his age. He might be better suited for Serie A, using that example. But a lot of these guys have plenty of Premier League experience, have won cups, have won domestic leagues elsewhere. There's no way that they are as bad as the way they are playing right now. Look at Raheem Sterling, for example. I highly doubt that he is just a system player from Manchester City, that he benefited solely from playing under Pep, because he did it for Liverpool too, at a very young age in the Premier League. So that's what leads me to believe that this group has given up on Potter already. And you look at Potter's track record here, most Chelsea managers outside of Andreas Villas-Boas succeed in their first 6 months. Like, far and away succeed, like leading the league, kind of succeeding. Potter's not it, man. He won his first 3 Premier League games, and we have not won in our last 7 now. Chelsea have not won a game in their last 7 Premier League matches. And the only variable, because again, all of these guys outside of Koulibaly, Sterling, Fofana really hasn't played, so don't include him in there, are guys who were here last year, guys who were in a top 4 team. So the outstanding variable there is Potter. And again, Matt, I agree with you that it's partly on the players too, because it seems like they have given up already on him.
So we talked about the fluidity.
Go ahead, Parks.
We talked about the fluidity of our system earlier, and Collins, I like what you said, where it was, we found ourselves out of position then because we were kind of playing all over the place, and then it opens us up to the counter. One of the problems I think our team has and has had is almost something that's been touted for us, which is our versatility. We can like line up in any system. We can kind of, do whatever to match up to different teams, and we can float around. And Loftus-Cheek, right? He played 6 different positions and 7 different games, and he's versatile. And the person I hear a lot about versatility is Mason Mount. And just, you can play him anywhere. That's why so many managers love him. They can kind of slot him wherever he wants, and you can do a lot of different things. But Mason Mount to me is a perfect example of, jack of all trades, master of none. He's a utility knife, sure. So is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. He's a utility knife. He can plug and play, but is he good enough to really, be a master at a position where we can really utilize him and score goals or create or do whatever that position is built to do? And I don't think he's performed at a high enough level to sort of say that he can do that. Mount's the trickiest person on our team, I think, to figure out, because he has good moments, he has bad moments, he shows up, he disappears. Mostly consistent, but never good enough to receive all the praise, never bad enough to receive all the boos. He's just like this constant string along kind of a player. So his team is just tricky. I'm just cheering for a new face and new identity, and I still don't know what that is. I still don't know what that means, and I'm hoping blowing it up, for lack of a better word, blowing it up and trying something new and really figuring out, bring in 6 new starters, bring in 6 new players and actually freaking start them. Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see different faces and different systems and different ideas to change this, because just kind of like swapping 1 for 1 into this system doesn't really fix much. We see 1 for 1 swaps on our bench, and it just doesn't really fix anything. It just kind of perpetuates the problem. And to me, that's the biggest sort of like cancer that we have to get rid of, is the idea of how we play. And you can't do that by just swapping in one in, one out. It's got to be like a new wave of guys. It's a new wave of thinking. We've got part of that with Potter, and then we just need to kind of revamp the team then to fit around it.
And we'll continue this a little bit on Pod After Dark. But Parker, that was a nice transition there, because we are bringing in seemingly a new wave of players here. I believe there's 5 agreements already in place, 3 confirmed already, and the window opened just earlier today. So we're bringing in Andre Santos out of Brazil, Benoit Badashile from Monaco, center back. Christopher Nkunku is almost finalized, from what I understand. Who am I missing here, boys?
Vardial.
That one's kind of gone by the wayside. Enzo Fernandez. Word is, that David Ornstein reported today that the facts around that are maybe not necessarily 100% accurate, but that Chelsea is still working that deal. So we'll see if Enzo ends up at Stamford Bridge at all in January here.
And Fofana.
Yes, and David Fofana out of one of those Scandinavian leagues. But boys, it's nice to have an Ivorian striker again, right?
It's worked out well in the past.
So is there anybody in this group that you guys are particularly excited about?
No, only because I don't know enough about him. Like, I'll be completely honest, I don't know enough about him or anything like that. Collins, I know that you bring up stats all the time and I love you for it. I want to know how that's going to translate. And to Parker's point, if they're even going to play, or are we going to continue to run this cycle of we bring in players and then we just, further enhance the loan army. We've seen it work a little bit, and I mean a little bit, in being like maybe 2 out of the 40 people that we would send out on loan maybe actually end up turning out. But I just don't know enough about him. Collins, one other person. Who's the Russian teenager?
Arsen Zakarian. That deal is still on hold because there's sanctions against Russian clubs.
Beautiful. That's exactly what we want. Maybe Roman can talk on our behalf. But yeah, I mean, like, it's good to see that. I like what we're doing as far as trying to bring in players, especially younger players. I do like that aspect of it. You're trying to set yourself up for the future. We're not, dropping 80 mil on somebody that's 30, 31 years old or anything like that. Like, it's good to see that we're trying to build, as Antonio Conte said, a strong foundation. But again, time will tell. I'm hoping that, just like any Chelsea fan, I'm hoping all of these work out above and beyond our expectations. But I just don't know enough about them to say whether or not I'm on board with them or not.
It's hard not to get excited about Enzo. He's a young, solid, proven midfielder. I'm with you though, Matt. Like, playing the stat game, I've been burned on the stat game way too many times now to give any shits about what people did in the Bundesliga. I just don't care how many goals you scored. It doesn't matter. The other thing I think about too is, pick a player that we don't rate highly at Chelsea, Pulisic, or maybe not us, but people don't, right? If you show me a Christian Pulisic highlight reel, you can convince me he's a great player. That's not what you get though. It's not that's a highlight reel. That's a 6-minute clip of his 15 best moments. That's not what he does in a 90. And we watch games, full games, right? We rate players on how we see them perform over a full season, over week to week, or playing midweek in the FA Cup. How do they show up there? Thiago Silva is a great example of that. I don't really care what Thiago Silva's stats are. You can't convince me that he's not a phenomenal, A1 Rolls Royce type of defender. Like, he is, because I watch him every week and he does phenomenal things every single week, right? So I don't care. And then the other person that comes to mind is like Mateo Kovacic. He was a loan with an option to buy. He wasn't super highly rated. Madrid didn't want him anymore. He didn't have a ton of playing time. He didn't have a highlight reel that looked like anyone super impressive. And he's one of our top midfielders. So I don't really care what their stats are coming into it. I just want people that fit our system, that play with some physicality, that can figure some stuff out, and that want to be together. And when I see people like Leao and Reece James talking on Instagram often, and they're commenting on each other's posts and they're interacting with each other, that seems to me like the stuff like when Matt, when you and I started playing together. Like, it just feels like it's cool, right? It's something that you want to see happen, right? You and I grew up playing against each other in club volleyball, and then we started playing together, right, at Oshkosh. So it feels like something different when you see guys like that kind of link up together. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more guys that fit together, that want to play with each other, that want to hang out after the games, that want to be together, and stuff like that. And that makes my job as a podcaster incredibly difficult because I don't see the inner stuff like that. But again, I'll revert my long-winded response with it's hard not to get excited about Enzo. I feel like he's a top talent that a lot of people are interested in. He's a lot of money, sure, but if he works out, he's an incredible talent at a young age that has big game experience and in an area that we need a lot of help in.
And that's the complaint I've heard a lot about Enzo. The thing that you just mentioned there, Parker, is that it's a high price tag on him. His release clause alone is 120 million euros, I believe. And Chelsea are looking to pay over that to make sure that this deal can be done now. But you look at, he was the FIFA young player winner at the last World Cup. You look at the last 6 winners of that, dating back to 1998. And $120 million may be a bargain. Mbappe, Paul Pogba, Thomas Muller, Lucas Podolski, Landon Donovan, Michael Owen. That's a list. That's a very solid list. Landon Donovan is probably the worst out of all of them. But, $120 million, he's 21, and, you assume that the way Bowley operates, you're going to give him a long-term contract, probably 7 years, I would assume. So then financial fair play, you're spreading that out. You're spreading the total value out over 7 years. It's not as bad. I think it almost becomes a bargain, because if you wait 5-6 years, then you're really going to be overpaying for him. You're going to be paying probably $200 million for him.
if it works out.
Right. And I'm just saying, based on past, the last
Right.
6 winners of this award have not failed to pan out. Like, it's a good class to be in. But I think that the other two that I'm excited about, Andre Santos, I don't know much about him. He was 18 years old, coming out of Brazil. Can play the wing, can play a little bit centrally, has played a little bit of wing back, which I know is always a concern at Chelsea, if every player can play wing back. But we got him for, I believe, 12 million pounds. And there was literally a riot of fans at Atletico because they thought the club had been swindled. They thought it was charity that they were giving this kid away. So when Brazilians are pissed, I feel like you win. And the other guy is Fofana. Again, not a guy I know a ton about. He does have 20 goals this calendar year, which is more than anyone on this current Chelsea team, regardless of the league that they play in. I've watched some of the scouting videos on him. He definitely has his deficiencies. He's good in hold-up play, not a great distributor. He's very solidly on one foot, but he's young. He's young, and we do not have a striker at the moment. We have Aubameyang. We have no one else. So we know he's going to come in and he's going to play. So let the kids play. I'm excited to see a fresh face in the absence of Armando Broja.
It's a good point, Collins, because I was thinking when I was watching this about how shitty our depth is, and a lot of that is due to injury, that the 11 that's out there isn't our best 11 on roster. And I get that. But man, is our depth like waning. And I saw a lot of people complaining that Dave played a full 90 when he's got old legs. But I don't know who's replacing him. Like, who do we have? Not even Loftus-Cheek as a makeshift right wing back or right back in that situation. We have no one. We have so few people. It's unbelievable. So we need some depth in our roster in a big way.
Well, yeah, you look specifically at Lewis Hall. The guy's a number 6. He's a number 8, like by trade. And the only place that he's played with the senior squad has been left back because we have no depth.
And did a damn fine job.
Sure.
I saw an interesting stat the other day about the right back position. In the last decade, we have bought 2 right backs, Zappacosta and Dave. And then Reece James was an academy graduate.
Right.
In a decade, 2 right backs. It has to be addressed. We've been calling for it on this pod for about a year now. Is that, hey, we need depth at wing back. And we went out and we solidified left wing back. Chilwell went down injured, as you know, he probably is going to be doing for his career. I mean, now you got Cucurella, who, you know, he knows how to play left back. He's a natural left back, which is something we didn't have last year. But we've never had that true backup to Reece James. And so I feel like that has to be a January priority. I have seen Pedro Porro linked to the club, by the way. Young Spaniard playing in Portugal at right back. So we'll see if anything comes to fruition with that. I know Todd Bowley seems to be good friends with super agent Jorge Mendes. So hopefully good things there.
Bring in Serginho Dest so we can play both. At this rate, we need somebody that can play both. It's going to be interesting. That's all I can say. It's going to be interesting. Again, I think we're going to be very active on both fronts, buying and selling. I'm just hoping that the purchases outweigh the value that we actually end up spending on them. That's kind of the biggest thing I'm hoping for.
All right. So we do put up 2 polls at the end of every match. One is the man of the match, which is your favorite player or the best player of the match. And then finally, we put up our man of the get the fuck out of here poll, which was the least satisfying thing of the match. Not always a person, can be an idea, could be a place, could be a team, could be a thing. But let's handle the Nottingham Forest match. We'll start with our man of the match.
Mason, right at the heart of that, man of the match. How good a Chelsea performance was it?
Yeah, I'm quite surprised I got man of the match, to be fair.
Matt, I already told you the results, so we'll start with Parker here. You had 4 options: Thiago Silva, Kepa, Christian Pulisic, or Dennis Zakaria. Who's your man of the match?
It's our Rolls Royce, man. It's Thiago Silva, the man in which our award is named after. It's Thiago Silva. He had a great match and continues to show why he deserves to be out there week in and week out.
Matt, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my initial 2, when we talked kind of pre-pod, the 2 that stood out to me were Silva and Pulisic. I do think that Silva, it's hard to say that Silva had a better game because it's just a normal game for Silva. Like it's kind of unfair to Pulisic, who I thought played really well, but it's sad when, you know, Silva just does that day in and day out and it's just expected of him. But yeah, I mean, comparatively to everybody else, has to be Silva. Sweep
it. Thiago Silva. There was one point in that game where I forgot who it was from Forest, but he tried to tried to juke out Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva read it before he even started the move. It was fantastic.
It just stood him up.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
And as we swept it, so did the audience. 61.5% of the vote went to Thiago Silva. Zakaria in second at 23, and then Kepa and Pulisic both at 7.5%. Let's turn to our man of the get the fuck out of here poll. On this poll, I will admit I was about 3-4 Bloody Marys in, and so I did not do the best in putting the options together. So,
shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing. Get the fuck out of here.
Our man to get the fuck out of here options: Graham Potter, Khalidou Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, and Graham Potter. Matt, who are you taking?
I will take nobody on that list, actually. I will take Kai Havertz. I thought he did not look good. It seemed like every time he had a chance or every time he had a first touch, it was always terrible. And when he did have an opportunity to look towards goal, he always passed it back right away. That is not a striker mentality. And yes, he's not naturally a striker. I get that. But when you've been in that role for 2 years, you should know what to do. And it's a constant battle that I have with him is we've seen the greatness that he does possess, he's almost like afraid to use it. And to me, it just bothers me. And I thought Kai, he was pretty much non-existent in the second half. So for me, Kai Havertz, he can replace Graham Potter too.
Matt, you know what really annoys me? Really chaps my ass is a lot of people have been commenting on their favorite moment of Chelsea, favorite goal of Chelsea in 2022. And a lot of people pick that Jorginho pass to Kai where he takes it first time with it, or he takes it down with his foot and then slots it past. And it's just a gorgeous goal. And I'm like, why don't we see that control, that touch, that finesse at all? We haven't seen it since.
Unless you watch the Germany team, that's about it.
It just bothers me that he can exude so much skill in one move, and then it's like, oh, it's all gone. I used it all. Bye-bye. Like that's all I had. It just feels like so fluky, man. It just sucks. Back to your question, Collins. If Sterling didn't have the goal, it was him by a landslide. But in a 1-1 draw, I don't feel like it's appropriate to give it to him. Even though I thought he looked terrible. He really looked poor in a lot of situations. Koulibaly looks slower than everyone else around him, which just and he doesn't like make up for it with physicality, in my opinion. You can be a big brute physical defender and not be the quickest guy on the pitch. Thiago Silva is not the quickest guy on the pitch either, but he makes up with it with his mind and his body position and other things. Koulibaly is kind of like slow and a step late and doesn't read the game properly and whatever. But to me, I think Potter got this one wrong. I'm going with Potter.
Yeah, I also voted Potter.
Which Potter?
Potter number 2 got 0 votes. So
I voted Potter 1.
Yeah, me too. I am considering buying a ticket on the Potter out train. I'm exploring my options, seeing if there's any other modes of transportation I can take. But I'm getting close to buying a ticket, boys. It's the tactics remind me too much of Greg Berhalter at this point. So he was my man to get the fuck out of here. And Parker, you and I, voices of the people, 77.8% of the vote went to Graham Potter. Koulibaly received 22%. Raheem Sterling received 0. So that is our polls. You can always find those after every match by going to Twitter at FlagDownPod. Again, that's our man of the match and man of the get the fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. Polls. All right. Well, fast forward now. Well, boys, but before we do close here, I just want to kind of put out a PSA. We had Hector on last week, head of the Milwaukee Blues. We've had Scott on earlier in the year, who was another one of the heads of the Milwaukee Blues. And hopefully, we have some more Chelsea and America members on the pod as we head into 2023 here. But one thing both of them have expressed to us off the record here is, that to come out to the pubs, come support the team with your Chelsea family. I was at Highbury today, and I know today is a holiday and it's early and everybody was out getting drunk last night and all that jazz. But it was a rather subdued atmosphere. And I know the team isn't playing well, but we can do our part as fans and from the other side of the pond, root our team on. So that would be my resolution that I'm putting on to all our listeners here is head to your local pub at least once before the end of the season here. Go meet some other Chelsea fans. Let us know about your experience and have a few drinks.
And if I've learned anything about doing that, Collins, just start looking online, like search Chelsea bar in city that I'm in. And I've done that a couple of times. I did a Raleigh Durham last season, and then I did New York City this season. And it's just a bunch of guys who want to watch the game together. It's just a bunch of dudes that want to hang out and cheer for the same team, right? It's a cool atmosphere, and it is what you make it. And that is people kind of getting off and getting out and figuring out where that place is, where everyone kind of congregates together. So it's a fun experience to do, and do it in your town locally, do it when you travel, do it wherever you're at. It's a fun experience.
All right. Well, that does push us up against the hour. So any in general closing thoughts from you boys?
There's always next week.
That's so sad.
Do you know who we play next week?
City twice.
All right. There's always 3 weeks away from today.
There's always next week.
I like what you said though, Matt, because there's next week. We play City. It is going to be a good time to try some stuff. Why not? And you don't have to completely rehaul the team, but work some guys in. That is my resolution for the team, is figuring out who can stay from that crop of young talent that's coming up, and who's got the chops to play in the big matches. And why not? They're going to come out and play hungry, play fast. They're going to probably make some mistakes, but they're probably going to try to make up for them too. They're going to be playing for their lives a little bit. Those are guys you want, man. And it's big game situation. Their adrenaline's going to be high. So fuck it. Just put them out there.
All right, perfect. Well, before we cheers to that, let me pay the bills here. If you've enjoyed what you watched, we were on Twitch this week. We're back. We're back on Twitch. You can follow us there. Just search @FlagDownPod. We'll be here most Sundays, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Did have a couple listeners chime in the chat today. It was nice to interact. So keep that going. But if you're busy on Sunday evenings, or if you like to listen to the podcast version instead, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts, specifically Spotify, Apple, and Google. All that we ask is that if you are on one of those services, just subscribe, rate, and review. It takes no more than 30 seconds, but helps us more than you know. If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow the podcast itself. You can just search Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook for @FlagDownPod. You can follow me, Andy. I'm at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour. You can follow Matt at Matus Lee. And finally, if you have any questions or anything you want us to address on air, like I said, come join us in the chat on Sundays on Twitch. Otherwise, shoot us a DM or leave us a comment on social media. We'll be happy to read anything that you got for us. That's all I've got, boys. Let's toast to. There's always next week. There it is. Let's toast to that. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
I'm all potted out.